I literally cannot get this other earring in. Like it won't, I don't know. You know what, we're gonna do this whole video with one earring and make it work, make it fashion. That's just the way it's gonna be. So if you're interested to learn the 4 obstacle busting ways to access even deeper power in your life, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Brittany Rochelle. Yes, I'm only wearing one earring because it's been a struggle for this video. And I'm an anger alchemist teaching you how to alchemize rage to live a magnificently melanated life. And today we're talking all about the 4 empowering, myth busting, obstacle busting ways to access your deepest power yet. If you haven't checked out other videos, I believe that your sexual power, your turn on, the ability to get really in touch with your genitals and their sensations is one of your, actually the most powerful source that you have access to. And yet for so many of us, especially Black and brown women, our sexuality can be one of the most challenging things to really embrace and learn to love outside of the impacts of sexism and racism, as well as homophobia and so many other systems of oppression that those of us with intersecting marginalized identities face on a daily basis. And yet when we do break through and claim and really learn to love and go even deeper into our own sexual power, into our own pride and beauty and wisdom and strength that is available to us from connecting with our root chakra, then the more we have access to alchemize, the more able we are to show up in our own lives and to stand up for ourselves. And this is really straight out of Audre Lorde's uses of the erotic. And she talks about once you have experienced a certain level of pleasure or a certain level of bliss, it completely changes your life and you're no longer willing to tolerate or accept things that you did in the past. And if you want to get even more content about that, you can definitely check out my video on why I believe your most radical revolutionary act could happen between the sheets. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 of the most common stereotypes, obstacles, blockers that Black women have been really fed into around claiming our own sexuality, and how you can learn about them and then go beyond them to claim one of your most powerful sources of energy and alchemy in your own body. Number 1 is the mammy. I've talked about this in other videos, but this is essentially a completely desexualized, asexual Black woman whose real own purpose in life is to be a fierce caretaker and more likely for white people's children. This entire idea of completely taking away our own sexuality is actually another form of dehumanizing us, because so many humans, the majority I would say, identify with having some sort of sexuality or some sort of sexual turn on. And when that basic right and part of our humanity is stripped away or completely erased, it often completely ignores the complexity and the strength and the vastness and also the power source that our own sexuality can be, not only for experiencing more and more pleasure, but also to use our sexuality as fuel to alchemize, learn from, and gain wisdom from our rage and our resentment. Number 2 is the sapphire, which is kind of the original angry Black woman stereotype, which really any public Black woman who has ever expressed any feeling other than like fake positivity and fake gratitude often gets typecasted into, because Black women have honestly so much to be angry about, and yet when we do express our anger, it's seen as emasculating and is often trivialized and becomes a very limiting stereotype, which often ignores also our own sexuality and the vastness and the complexity of a Black woman's experience, especially living in a colonized world. Number 3 is the Jezebel. This is the hypersexualized, hyper fetishized Black woman, and this was often a stereotype and a typecast that was created in order to really support the onslaught of sexual assault and that Black women experience, and also in Black women's bodies being the site of slavery, and really the way that white men have for centuries raped and abused Black women's bodies, using this stereotype and this idea that Black women are unrapeable because they're always asking for sex sex or hypersexualized as a way to justify abuse. And finally, the matriarch. In the super racist 1965 Moynihan report, it was said that the greatest threat to the Black community is woman-headed households. This report, which was completely oversimplistic and really missed so much of the systemic oppression that the Black community faces, really targeted Black women and Black women head of household as the real root or some sort of demise of the Black community, without looking at the mass incarceration, without looking at police brutality and over-policing that happens in Black neighborhoods. We also see these kind of attacks on Black women, sexuality, and the way that we live and choose to show up in our lives by having lower marriage rates, although America in general has lower marriage rates, yet Black women and girls were often demonized. And this specifically is a way that tries to attack the power and the resilience and the strength of Black women being able to survive and even find ways to thrive in an incredibly oppressive society. Now that we know all of these different ways where our sexuality as Black women is often blocked or depleted, and these same stereotypes can be seen in a lot of women of color, specifically the Jezebel and specifically the mammy idea of completely hypersexualized or completely desexualized. On the other hand, we can now learn exactly what we need to do to go beyond these stereotypes and claim our own sexuality and our sexual expression and use this as a source of power. So there's this really pleasurable exercise that you can do where you invite yourself into sexual pleasure, setting the intention to keep yourself safe, to go at your own pace, and to go with love and support. And you actually use your body's intelligence, which for those of us who aren't familiar, the whole practice and really field of somatics is all about body-centered exercises, body-centered approaches that understand that our bodies hold a wisdom, they hold their own memories, and they hold their own intelligence that is often outside of our minds, because so many of us are cut off from our own bodies, and a part of our body is our own sexuality, our innate sexual power. And so inviting yourself into a sexual experience, self-pleasuring, aka masturbation, and then being conscious and thinking about the ways, where does the mammy archetype show up in my life or in my sexuality? Or where does this Jezebel hypersexualized ideas of Black and brown women show up in my own body and the way that I express myself sexually with myself? And then what do I feel like I have to do with a partner? Going through the list of these four, including the matriarch idea of a strong Black woman, including the sapphire idea of the angry Black woman, and exploring where those all show up in your body and in your sexuality, and then getting curious and letting your body and your sexual power really teach you and help you learn about ways that you can release these stuck ideas, these stereotypes, and really this colonial idea that's seeped into our bodies in such a deep way. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. Honestly, using sexual energy, using our own sexual power as this lab or as this like test tube to get to try on and experiment with ways that we can release trauma, ways that we can complete stress cycles. It's incredibly powerful. And if you'd like to learn more somatic practices that are sexual in nature, then I invite you to check out my free ebook, Melanin, A Reclamation, where I share my own story and I give you more tips and tools that you can actually use in the process I just described. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I invite you to click the link below to set up an absolutely free, no pressure discovery call where we can see if working together is a good fit. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.